This is something that is an absolute dream with the electric truck and makes life so much easier. And the second thing I've learned is to be careful around forklift drivers. The truck looks so cool, but it's most likely also one of the most polarizing vehicles. You can really tell that there was pressure on Scania to get this to market quickly, and it will look really cool when the other 27 electric trucks get delivered. Who knows if the driver had honked if he knew that it was an electric truck.
So eine neue Woche beginnt.
A new week begins as an electric trucker. Today is beautiful weather, and I'm just doing a little departure check on the Volvo I was driving last week. It's still loaded and currently conditioning the cabin and battery. And there's a little highlight this week, so I want to give you a little teaser. Over there, you can see a brand new Scania 40R with the beautiful red Nano Janssen paintwork. It was picked up on Friday while I was still on the road, so I couldn't be there, but I can't wait to get in there and get to know the technical details. You can see the CCS connection on the left side, which has become the standard for electric trucks, except for some reason Volvo didn't get the memo and put it on the right side. And over here you can see the batteries. This one has exactly 208 kilowatt hours, this one has 104 kilowatt hours, and another 208 and 104 on the other side. So in total, 624 kilowatt hours, and of course the brand new saddle, which has never been used. I'm really excited and curious to find out more about this truck. I'm still on the road with the Volvo, but we'll see if we can check this one out later this week. I just completed my delivery, unloaded everything without problems, and the forklift driver was really nice too. Now I'm waiting for dispatch because there might be a return trip close by. They told me to just stop and park wherever possible, and with a 19-meter trailer, it is quite difficult to find a parking spot. There are a few truck parking spaces here in the sat-nav, but the infrastructure is not that good in this area. Hats off to all the truck drivers who have to find a parking spot during their trips. It can be really tense and stressful. Luckily, I just found one, but I still had to drive for a few kilometers to get here. I would never have thought that it would be so difficult. Something that is an absolute dream with the electric truck and makes life much easier is the acceleration when entering the Autobahn. We are currently without any load and the Autobahn is empty, but we almost accelerated to maximum speed on the acceleration lane. This makes it so much safer and is really cool at the same time. Something else that I noticed this morning, I started with 100% battery, and down here on the right it has a power indicator that shows the current power output and recuperation. But with the full battery, the recuperation was limited. That is completely normal for electric cars when the battery is full, because there is nowhere for the additional energy to go. But it is different with trucks, because every truck needs a secondary brake. You either need a retarder, an oil retarder, or an eddy current brake, because on long descents, the mechanical brakes overheat and you simply need a wear-free brake. With the electric truck, there is only the recuperation, and I find it strange that it can get limited. And I was a bit surprised when the recuperation did not slow me down at the beginning of the trip. I already mentioned that the Volvo has gross net capacity difference of over 150 kilowatt hours. So there would be enough buffer to use some of it for the recuperation when you start with 100% battery, as it would be used up very quickly again anyway. I think they could have come up with a better solution to use the extra energy such a 40-ton truck generates through recuperation. And the tour is done. I partially loaded the trailer at the customers and left it there because it will get fully loaded overnight. And tomorrow morning, I will drive it to its destination or have another customer. So today was kinda unspectacular. We still have 63% in the battery, and the truck is already charging and will be done in 1 hour and 5 minutes. You can see here on the screen that it's comfortably charging at 130 kilowatt. Otherwise, I learned 2 important things today. The first one is that when you are reversing around a corner, you should always try to make a left turn, because you have way better visibility through the mirrors and you can physically turn around or look over your shoulder. On the right side, you need to adjust the mirror, and it can get very annoying with the limited visibility. And the second thing I've learned is to be careful around forklift drivers. I was still busy adjusting some belts, but the forklift driver was already coming back with another pallet and did not hear me. So it can get very dangerous very quickly if you are not aware of your surroundings. And safety shoes are an absolute must-have. You have to look after yourself because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but a hard job. But now I'll have a look at the new Scania truck. The Volvo is standing over there at the charging station and is getting ready for tomorrow. And here is the brand new Scania truck. The truck has already been wrapped today and received a small plug sticker so people know it's an electric truck. And down here is the subsidy sticker of the German government that basically informs you that 80% of the additional purchase costs compared to a diesel truck were subsidized by the government. The truck looks so cool, but it's most likely also one of the most polarizing vehicles because the Scania V8 people in particular are all for combustion engines. But I really like the design. In the front here, there is a very small electric engraving, and the model number 40R has nothing to do with the battery. 40 stands for the motor, I think it should be 400 kilowatt, and R is an abbreviation for the cabin size. Let's have another look at the batteries. We already talked about the 4 battery packs, 2 times 208 and 2 times 104 kilowatt hours. There is also another truck version with smaller battery size that is basically missing the additional 2 small packs. I'm not a battery expert, but it has nickel manganese cobalt cells installed. They are more powerful, lighter, but also a little more expensive. And very interesting choice, since the e-Actros from Mercedes uses lithium iron phosphate cells, which are a little heavier but much more robust. And I think they come with a 1.2 million kilometer or 750,000 mile guarantee on the battery. I don't know what it's like for Scania. It's really interesting how the big OEMs are pursuing different cell strategies. I've got myself the key, and it's basically the same concept as the Volvo, that the key and the remote control are separate, which seems old-fashioned at first, but I think the reason is that you can leave the engine or important systems running, but still leave and lock the vehicle. And this is the Scania from the inside. It has a completely different design, and this one is also a long-distance cabin, which means it has a bed, including a huge mattress and a fridge down here. Lots of storage compartments up top, which all makes it a lot more bearable to stay on the road for several days. I like the fully digital cockpit from Volvo a little better, but they kept this design more classy, which is fine too. Here in the front, you can see that the truck is at 98% battery, a range of 420 kilometers or 260 miles, which is about 100 kilometers or 60 miles more than the Volvo. And this one has an 800-volt system and can charge with up to 350 kilowatt. With such a battery and charging speed, you can achieve similar daily mileage as a diesel truck. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., people from Scania come by for a technical introduction for the truck. I'm curious to see what else they'll tell us, because as far as I know, there is nothing particularly different or groundbreaking tech-wise in this truck. I just parked the Scania next to the Volvo because here at Nano Janssen we're having visitors from the city council in the evening, the mayor and the local CDU party. Unfortunately, these 2 trucks are the only vehicles that we have so far, but there are a lot more to come. But side by side, you can see the difference between a long-distance cabin and the Volvo for local transport. But both look decent. I've got nothing to complain. We just had the introduction from a really kind Scania employee. We did the introduction in several groups, but as I expected yesterday, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It does have a night panel function that allows you to switch everything to dark, except for the speedometer, which makes it cool to drive at night, but else the operating system is still completely blank. Trip and range planning, charging stations, and navigation are all offloaded to the app at the moment. You can really tell that there was pressure on Scania to get this to market quickly because the interior and overall infotainment aren't tailored to electric vehicles at all. There's a state of charge display and a range indicator, and that's pretty much it. So I'm curious to see how it performs in practice. I think Volvo put a bit more effort into their first vehicle, but let's see. Maybe this one will outperform it, because in the end, it's about consumption, performance, and the recuperation. And we can only find that out when we're using it for daily transport. The briefing is over, and dispatch has told me to grab a trailer. In this case, the 98. The license plate is also always on the front, which is really handy and easy to spot. I'm going to drive to a customer for loading, and tomorrow morning I'll head out to Lerna again. I thought it doesn't hurt to ask, so I asked whether I could take the Scania, and they said I could. Now I'm just waiting for the briefing to finish, and then I'll drive the short distance on my own. Tomorrow, a colleague who's also interested in seeing how the truck works will accompany me on the trip. I can't wait to see how the Scania will differ from the Volvo. But in my opinion, the different truck ranges are not as significant as the mandatory brake time. But especially during the brake, the Scania can charge at 300 kilowatts at the Alpitronic chargers, while the Volvo can only reach 200. A 50% increase in charging power is definitely something. So, within my 2 weeks here, things are moving quickly. I just checked in for loading and have to wait here for a few minutes. This was my first time driving with the original Nano Janssen trailer. Now I've got the flatbed trailer in red, along with the red truck, which is really a stunning combination. But something funny happened on my way here. I suddenly heard honking from far away. I turned around and saw a V8 Scania honking as a greeting. Who knows if the driver had honked if he knew that it was an electric truck. I'm really curious how die-hard Scania fans will react to this vehicle. And usually the trucks have electric written on top, but this one's more low-key with just a small electric sign at the front, and special number plates for electric trucks don't exist for trucks of over 7 tons. So with this one, we are driving undercover. We're back and I've plugged in the Scania for charging. It's sharing the station with the Volvo and is charging with 132 kilowatts, which is clearly a limitation of the station, not the truck. We'll see tomorrow how fast it can really charge. Right now, we're at 92%, and it doesn't show the charging power, just that it's plugged in and that it needs another 16 minutes to hit 100%. But I've already noticed one issue. It's not showing me the energy consumption, the average consumption, nor how many kilowatt hours I've used in total. It can track operating hours, but the consumption display stays at 0. I already reset it, but it's still stuck at 0, which is pretty annoying since that's the most interesting part. And now, the range isn't displayed anymore either. It used to show the remaining range, but now it's gone. So right now, I have neither the consumption nor the range.
Das wird lustig morgen.
That's going to be fun tomorrow, but the truck itself drives great, and the performance is incredible. When driving without a trailer, the traction control already kicks in because it got so much power. I've also rearranged the interior a bit. The built-in navigation isn't great, so I installed the TomTom Go app on my phone and mounted it here. It's actually better than the Volvo, where I had to mount it on the left because the slots were too small. But a cool feature is that you can adjust the rear axle's height from here, so you don't have to fiddle with the box that's always lying around somewhere down here. It's super practical. And everything else we're going to find out tomorrow on the first trip. I just finished for the day and had to wrap up quickly, because with trucks, you not only have to follow driving and rest times, but also shift times. So regardless of whether I was driving, the total working time has to include mandatory breaks. Otherwise, it'll be tight for me to start early tomorrow, as the tour begins at 2:30 a.m. The 2 electric trucks are parked there, the Volvo on the left and the Scania on the right. And I think I need to be more careful with my reviews because things like user experience, data visibility, and how the navigation works are all secondary with trucks. At the end of the day, a truck is a tool. And as long as it can haul 40 tons from point A to point B, that's what really matters. For cars, those details are more like buying criteria, whether you prefer one feature or another. But here, it's all about hard facts and economics. So tomorrow we'll see whether the Scania can charge at 350 kilowatts and if it can handle long-distance driving. If it can, then it's the better vehicle. We're back at the charging station, where we charged the Scania before. And it's always a hot topic. Many people are curious and ask about the truck. Size-wise, the Scania is a little bit longer than the Volvo, but that doesn't matter here at all. And the charging data for the Scania looks very promising. You can see that it quickly ramped up to the full 300 kilowatt, which is the station's limit. It can't go any higher, and that's really awesome. What also impressed me is how fast it charges. We plugged it in at 42%, and after only 3 minutes, it's already at 47%. In total, we drove 256 kilometers or 160 miles, and the consumption display started showing data as well. It's currently displaying 86.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer, which would be incredibly good, considering we were pulling a trailer with around 20 tons of load. If that's accurate, it would be phenomenal. So I did some quick math. The battery has 624 kilowatt hours gross, and 83% of that is usable, so we've got 517 kilowatt hours. We've used 58%, which is around 300 kilowatt hours, and that covered 256 kilometers. So that's 1.17 kilowatt hours per kilometer, or 1.88 kilowatt hours per mile, which is much more realistic than the display showed. Let's see if it adjusts over time, but right now, we're looking at a range of 442 kilometers, or 274 miles, even with load and under less than ideal conditions. The truck only needed about 45 minutes to charge to keep it running for the rest of the day. This fits seamlessly into everyday operations. I'm genuinely impressed by the Scania, both in terms of the interior, technical specs, charging capacity, and consumption. We just took a typical 45-minute rest break, and during that time we charged the truck from 42% to 84%, adding exactly 200 kilowatt hours. Right now, it's still charging at 250 kilowatts, even at this high charge level. It started at 300 but dropped slightly, yet those are still incredibly good numbers. Now we're ready to drive the second shift. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Scania can do on long-haul trips, but the first signs are very promising. We're back at the depot and are about to plug the truck into the charging station. Funny enough, some people from Siemens Energy are here, so I guess they're making some adjustments to the chargers. Now the first real trip is done. We drove 585 kilometers or 363 miles. We made just one charging stop. We started with 100%, took a 45-minute break, added about 200 kilowatt hours, and now we've arrived with 14% battery left. The consumption on the second part of the trip, which is more representative, was around 1 kilowatt hour per kilometer or 1.6 kilowatt hour per mile, which is really impressive. It's even less than the Volvo used, possibly because the Scania is a bit more aerodynamic. We were mostly loaded with around 20 tons of cargo, so no one can say we were driving empty. This gives it a range of nearly 500 kilometers or 311 miles. I'm genuinely impressed with what the Scania did today, and I'm looking forward to the other trips we'll take. So far, it passed the first test drive with flying colors. We're back at Shell doing another charging test. Yesterday, I noticed the charging curve dropped off, and my theory was that the charge level of the truck was too high. But in hindsight, the battery is so huge that the charging curve is more like a straight line. Now, I think it's actually the cables of these Alpitronic chargers. These are just air-cooled, not water-cooled. After about 15 minutes, they're already warm. So after 20 minutes, the charging rate dropped from 300 kilowatts to 275 kilowatts. Let's restart the charging process and try the cooler cable. One thing that's strange about the Scania is that you can always stop the charging process, no matter if it's locked or not, so theoretically, anyone could stop it overnight. That should be fixed with a software update. Let's authorize the charging again, but this time use the left cable.
Zack.
And sure enough, the charging rate went back to about 300 kilowatts. We'll give it a few minutes to see for sure, but it looks like these cables can handle about 20 minutes of high load before they start to heat up. In these 20 minutes, we charged almost 100 kilowatt hours, which isn't a problem for almost every electric car, but for a truck, it becomes an issue. Yesterday, the charging rate even dropped to around 250 kilowatts. So yeah, we've learned something really important with this charging test. It's always tempting to charge with the trailer attached when we're the only ones here, but other electric cars can show up really quickly, and then we'd be the bad guys. So it's best to unhitch at charging parks like this one. What's fascinating is the info about these cables, something no one really cared about before. Whether Alpitronic chargers have water-cooled cables or not is actually very relevant for trucks. That's why I'm adding this info in my database for truck charging parks, so others don't encounter the same issues.
Lernt immer wieder was Neues hier, gell?
So you're always learning something new. The workday is done, and I'm back at the depot. I've unhitched the covered trailer and attached an open trailer instead, because we have a customer where we need to measure the height of the saddle plate to see if all parts can be loaded. What's also cool about the Scania is something I noticed at night. There's an LED light strip on top. Not all Scanias have that. I'm not sure if it's an electric-only feature, but it looks amazing at night. Today's trip was pretty relaxing. We drove 500 kilometers, or 310 miles, and also used roughly 500 kilowatt hours. So it's around 1 kilowatt hour per kilometer or 1.6 kilowatt hour per mile, just like yesterday. So this truck can do 500 kilometers or 310 miles in the summer, which is impressive, and it charges incredibly fast. It would be interesting to see what it can do at an Ionity charging station with 350 kilowatts. I can now give you a few technical details about how the charging park is set up. Back there, that blue shed, that's the temporary transformer, responsible for 1.6 megawatts. That over there is the new transformer, freshly installed on its foundation. The guys who kindly opened the door for me are working inside, doing some cabling. This transformer steps the voltage down from medium to low, bringing it to 400 volts, which is what's used in the charging park. It's interesting to see the transformer up close, and it's not as big as I thought. There's also a battery storage system being installed, as there's a large solar array nearby. Paired with dynamic electricity prices, it will reduce overall costs of charging. The foundation is already set, and a 1.1 megawatt-hour battery will be added for powering the charging stations. The chargers here will have up to 400 kilowatts of power each. So with 10 chargers at 400 kilowatts, you get a total of 4 megawatts, which is what the transformer can handle. In theory, you could charge everything at full power, but that rarely happens. Over there are the Volvo and Scania parked, and it will look really cool when the other 27 electric trucks get delivered. This is how the energy transition works, preparing a logistics company for the future with renewable energy. It takes lots of work and some copper, but it's worth it. Super interesting, and I'll keep you updated on what happens in the coming weeks and months. Another week as an electric trucker is done, it's pouring here, and we just wrapped up the last task for Friday, rearranged the trailers on the lot. Not very enjoyable in the pouring rain, but I helped out guiding the drivers. I also got to see how it is to connect and hook up a trailer to a diesel truck. It's noisy and it smells, so I'm really glad that I have the privilege of driving only electric trucks. It's so much more relaxing. I'm curious to see what next week brings, and with that, I wish you a great weekend. See you next time.